What's happening, everybody? Tuesday, March 18th, 2025. My name is Kevin Smith. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Loud Majority Live. We got a big show for you guys today. We are going to be talking JFK files. Who did what? When did they do it? When did they know about it? Because the files, according to President Trump, are set to be released today. We don't know when, we don't know in what manner in which they will be released. Obviously, we will bring you guys any live news if it happens during the show. But I'm going to roll the dice here. I'm going to roll the dice and say that you guys probably are not going to like my take on this. This contradicts what a lot of people think. It contradicts what some people that I know and respect have said. We're going to dive into all of it. Because to be honest with you, of all the conjecture and all the conspiracy and all the documentaries and all the Oliver Stone movies, the most compelling testimony I've heard, or the most compelling story that I've heard about the Kennedy files comes from one of LFA TV's own, Roger Stone. We're going to show you guys that clip. Also, Democrats continue to be in complete and utter free fall. Every day it seems to be getting worse and worse and worse and worse for Democrats. So we shall laugh. We shall laugh at them because it's funny. It's just really, really funny. Before we dive into all of that, though, guys, hit the thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. Share it out, share it out, share it out. Let's pop that live chat up. We're going to be talking Kennedy today. Hello, Jeanette. How are you? Natalie, what's happening? Terry, how are you? Tommy girl, how are you? Yeah, I'm going to dive into my take. And then, because it's not so much my take on the Kennedy assassination in and of itself. What I'm talking about is my take on what these files will show, what they will not show, because I just don't think, look, I don't have high hopes. Hello, Gail, how are you? Skylar Lee, how are you? I don't have really high hopes for this. I got to be honest with you guys. I have to be honest. I don't really see all too much of this happening, but we will dive into that in just one moment. Before we do that, guys, this show is brought to you by Old Glory Bank.
What do a neurosurgeon, a country artist, and a television and radio host have in common? They all saw the writing on the wall. Big banks sharing your financial information with big government. Join them as owners in Old Glory Bank, the pro-America online bank that protects your privacy, security, and liberty. Invest today at own.oldglorybank.com.
Guys, check them out today. Go to oldglorybank.com. Proud sponsors of the show. Mike Ring, all the guys over there, absolutely phenomenal. Check out oldglorybank.com. So, let's dive in. I'm going to put the live chat up while I do this. So, I'm going to put the live chat up so that I can watch all of you yell at me in real time. So I can watch you all yell at me in real time. As I said, the Kennedy files are set to be released today. And I want to be clear about this. I want to make this very, very clear. If I'm wrong, I'll admit I'm wrong. I am not afraid to do that. However, I think this is going to be a giant nothing burger. I think the release of these documents will prove nothing. I think that if you believe it was the CIA, you will continue to believe that. I think that if you think it was the mafia, you will continue to believe that. I think if you are one of the 7 people out there who believe the Warren Commission, that it was a lone gunman from a window way up high in a shot nobody could make, I think you'll believe that. I don't think these documents, and look, like I said, I could be wrong. I do not know. We shall see. 80,000 documents set to be released today on the document, on the situation. I don't think we're going to get what people want. Why? Well, I am not somebody who dives deep into what some would consider to be the conspiratorial. I try not to do that. To my mind, most things in life, the simplest answer is usually the most accurate. That's just kind of how things seem to go. I'm not saying I like it. I'm just saying it is what it is. Here was Donald Trump talking about the release.
We are tomorrow announcing and giving all of the Kennedy files. So people have been waiting for decades for this, and I've instructed my people that are responsible, lots of different people, put together by Tulsi Gabbard, and that's going to be released tomorrow.
That was Donald Trump yesterday at the Kennedy Center talking about his planned release of the documents. Let's dive into it from the post-millennial. Trump set to release 80,000 pages of JFK documents tomorrow. President Trump said he will release all the files today, something around 80,000 pages of documents. This comes after Trump made a promise on the campaign trail to release all the files. We are now getting word that all of the files will be released unredacted, completely unredacted. That's great. I like the transparency. We should have more of that. We should have more of that on everything. The government classifies way too much stuff to begin with. He added that the release of the file was put together by Tulsi Gabbard and will be released tomorrow. I don't believe we're going to redact anything, Trump later added. I said during the campaign I'll do it, and I'm a man of my word, so tomorrow you'll have the JFK files. Speaking to an advisor, Trump then added that the files will be released the afternoon on Tuesday. When he was asked if there would be an executive summary by reporters, he responded, "No, I'm not going to do summaries. You'll write your own summaries." He then said that it was about 80,000 pages of documents. In an interview with Full Measure over the weekend, Trump said the release of the assassination files was moving along rapidly. He also said he plans on releasing the RFK files and the Martin Luther King Jr. files along with the Epstein stuff. Well, I don't want to be a dick, because I like what President Trump is doing. But if the release of the Epstein files are any way to gauge how we're going to get a release of the JFK files, I'm not really getting my hopes up here. I'm not really getting my hopes up. As I said, I could be wrong. I absolutely could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, I will admit that I am wrong. Redneck, don't do that. I say the word absolutely correctly. You all say it wrong. Bottom line. But if I had to go into what I would consider to be the most cogent argument on what happened with all these files, we look to friend of the show, Roger Stone. Roger Stone, of course, worked for the Nixon administration. He's been in politics longer than most of us have been alive. I'm going to show you guys a pretty long clip of Roger. It's about 6 minutes long, of him on the Patrick Bet-David podcast talking about his book about the Kennedy assassination and a subsequent conversation he had with President Nixon. Here is Roger Stone.
The 60th anniversary tomorrow, John F. Kennedy assassination. I've had a lot of different people on, Roger, on this topic. You've written a book on it, a New York Times best-selling book, The Man Who Killed Kennedy, The Case Against LBJ. I had a guy on the podcast. I interviewed him 6 years ago, Jim Jenkins. Rob, if you can pull this up. When I was interviewing Jim Jenkins, I asked him a question. He was one of the 4 people in the room that held John F. Kennedy's brain, okay, Jim Jenkins. And we released this interview on, it could have been one of the anniversary dates. And a video was taken down for 6 hours. It was trending in a very good way. And then came back up the next day. And I said, who out of all the people, who do you think was behind it? This is a guy that's been away for 50 years. He was in the military, was in the Navy, doesn't want any attention, doesn't do any interviews, doesn't talk to anybody. Somehow, some way, we got him to feel comfortable to come and talk to us. and I had him on the show, and his wife was sitting right next to me. They've been married for 50 plus years. He says the one man that makes me feel very uncomfortable is Lyndon Johnson, is who he said. Well, how did you come to the conclusion that Lyndon Johnson was behind the assassination of John F. Kennedy?
Basically, Richard Nixon told me that. Wow. He said that the Warren Commission was the biggest goddamn hoax in American history. And I'd always had my suspicions, but the point here is that everybody who's analyzed the Kennedy assassination looks at it through a specific prism. So Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is right when he says the CIA is involved. Others are right when they say organized crime was involved. Yet others are right when they say the FBI was involved, the Secret Service, Big Texas Oil, the international banks. But Lyndon Johnson is the linchpin. He is the nexus to all of those institutions and individuals, and he is the man who has the most acute interest. Lyndon Johnson is under federal investigation in the Bobby Baker scandal and the Billy Sal Estes scandal. Robert Kennedy's begun telling people he's going to be charged. John Kennedy tells Evelyn Lincoln, his personal secretary, on his way to Dallas on the plane, Johnson is being dropped from the ticket. Johnson is a man staring into the abyss. He knows he is going to prison. Drew Pearson, the most influential columnist of the day, already has a column in the can for that Sunday, the day after Kennedy's supposed to be in Dallas, nailing Johnson for taking a bribe for a General Dynamics defense appropriation. So Johnson has motive, means, and opportunity. He's the man who insists that Kennedy go to Dallas to bind up the wounds between the progressive and bourbon wings of the Democratic Party. He goes to Kennedy's hotel room the night before and tries to change the motorcade seating to put his hated enemy, Senator Ralph Yarborough, in the death car with Kennedy and move his former administrative assistant, Governor John Connally, to the vice presidential car. Kennedy says, no, that defeats the whole purpose of why I'm here. I need to be seen with Connally, the head of the more conservative wing of the party. And in my book, I prove, using eyewitness evidence, fingerprint evidence, and deep Texas politics, that Johnson and all these other entities, each of whom has their own motive, the CIA about the anger over the Bay of Pigs failure, the anger over Kennedy's secret deal to remove our missiles from Turkey and Italy in the Cuban Missile Crisis, Big Oil over the repeal of the oil depletion allowance, organized crime who feels double-crossed by JFK because they financed his election and they broke arms for him in Chicago and in Texas in 1960, in which he wins a razor-thin victory. So everybody has their own individual interest. The banks, because Kennedy's demanding a silver-backed dollar. They don't want to go there. But Johnson has a unique relationship with each one of them, and I actually prove that among the fingerprints found on the cardboard boxes in the crow's nest is the fingerprint for a man named Malcolm Mac Wallace, who was convicted in 1951 of murder. That's how we have his fingerprints. Wow. He murdered a man named Douglas Kinzer, who was in a love trial with Johnson's sister and who was trying to blackmail Lyndon Johnson. He was represented at trial by Johnson's personal attorney, John Cofer, and he's the only man in the history of Texas to be convicted of murder and get a suspended sentence, whereupon he then goes to work at Temco, a defense contractor owned by D.H. Byrd, one of the financiers of Johnson's career, and the owner of the Texas School Book Depository building. So when I asked Nixon point blank after a couple cocktails, because Nixon was very buttoned down, it was very hard to get him to talk, retrospectively about anything. He was very forward-looking.
Until 9:30.
Until he had a couple of silver bullets, as he would call them. Yes. He had a couple martinis, and then he got loquacious. And I said to him, so, Mr. President, let me ask you a question. Who really killed John Kennedy? He kind of stared into his martini, and he shuddered, and he said, well, Dallas. I said, I'm sorry, sir, I don't understand. He said, let me put it to you another way. Lyndon and I both wanted to be president. The difference was I wasn't willing to kill for it. Wow. There it is. He laid it right out. And that was really my inspiration. It took me 5 years to write this book, but that was really my inspiration for writing the book.
Now, look, Do I know the ins and outs of Richard Nixon and his drinking? No. Roger, obviously, more worked for the man and knew when would be the right time to ask this sort of question. I am, however, someone who believes that the drunken mind speaks the true heart. In common parlance, I'm somebody who thinks that when you're drunk, you probably say what you really mean. And for anyone who's ever been drunk and confessed their love to someone, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, I don't know. Roger seems to lay out a rather compelling case. I've read his book. Was it LBJ? Was it the Texas big oil conglomerate? Was it the banks? Was it the mafia? These are questions that I believe many of us will not get in these files. Now, that does not mean that I believe the given narrative. Obviously, that would be absurd. However, I just don't think that we're going to get everything that we want out of this. And some people aren't going to like that take, but it seems to me at least to be the most plausible of all the possible explanations. Why we haven't gotten the documents so far, why everyone and their mother seems to be very sure of what is going to happen with the release of these documents. We'll see. We will see. But I don't want people to get their hopes up. I don't want people to get their hopes up because I don't think we're going to get everything we want. And I think that, unfortunately, because of that, it's going to lead to a hell of a lot more speculation than we currently have, which is enough to begin with. But we'll see. We shall see. I don't really know. I'm curious what you guys think. Let's throw it to the live chat real quick. Let's have a little bit of fun before we get to the big news of the day. What do you guys think? Who killed Kennedy? There's a question that I never thought we'd get the answer to, and I still don't think we're going to get the answer to it. But I'm curious as to what the crowd thinks. We got big numbers across all of the platforms right now. Who did it? Who did it? Who was behind it? Who was involved? Was Oswald involved? Was it the mob? Was it Sam Giancana and his friends? Was it revenge against Joe Kennedy? Was it the banks? I don't know. I'm curious to see what you guys think. I'm curious. Some people are right. We do tend to get disappointed a lot. So I'm not going to hold my breath. But I want to know. I want to know what the crowd thinks. Because I am here for the pleasure of the crowd. Are you not entertained? What do you guys think? Of course, somebody had to blame them. Well, I'm not even touching that. We're not going to go there. Let's see. We're not going to know. Let's see. The driver shot him. That's a new one. I don't think I've heard that one yet. The driver shot him. That's new. Johnson. Everybody seems to be blaming LBJ. Which, look, that doesn't seem to be that far out of the realm of possibility. Like Roger Stone said, both Nixon and Johnson wanted to be president. The only difference is LBJ would have killed for it. As I said, I am somebody who thinks that the drunken mind speaks the true heart. So we'll see what happens there. Bush Sr., somebody says. Does that tie into like big oil? Is that what that's all about? I'll be honest, I really haven't spent a lot of time diving into this. I try not to do speculation. But we'll see. The gun did it. Yeah, right. Yo, hold on. Wait a minute. I'm going back to that. Business professor. Right here. Is that highlighted on the screen? Yeah. The gun did it. That's what liberals will say. That's exactly what liberals will say, that the gun did it. The gun magically shot itself. That's funny as hell. That's a good one. That wins comment of the day. Guys, we're going to move on because there is so much news I want to get to, particularly about these deportations that Donald Trump is putting forth and the left losing their ever-loving mind over it. Before we get to that, though, Mike Lindell.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 6-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Guys, head on over to MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD. That's MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD for Mike Lindell's giant mega sale. Because guess what? We might not know who killed Kennedy, but we do know that my pillows are the best damn pillows anywhere out there. You see the way I did that? That's because I'm a consummate professional, and I know exactly how to do that. So head on over to MyPillow.com and use promo code LOUD. Giddy up. Let's go. So the left continues to lose their mind over Donald Trump deporting illegal immigrant criminals from this country, which is something I find very ironic considering, he kind of told us he was going to do it. He kind of told the world he was going to do it. It was one of his big campaign pledges. People seem to be very, very upset that this is going to happen, despite the fact we were told it was going to happen. Of course, Donald Trump, over the course of the last several days, has shipped a couple hundred members of Tren de Aragua, which is just a fun name to say, not exactly a fun name to get involved with. He has shipped them to El Salvador, and the left is continuing to proclaim that Donald Trump has somehow violated a court order by keeping his promises to the American people. Now, that would be something that Democrats would say. Donald Trump can't do this. Why is he doing this? I mean, he told us he was going to do it, but that doesn't mean he should do it. Because Democrats can never take the 80% issue on anything. And we're going to get into one rational Democrat later on in the show, talking about how if Democrats keep this stuff up, they are going to keep losing. So it is up to us. It is time for us to pounce. It is time for us to take advantage of their mistakes. One person who decided that he was going to leave it all out on the field was, of course, the Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Stephen Miller, who really never hides what he has to say. He was on with Martha McCallum and went off on an MSNBC contributor who didn't really like that the president was doing this.
But let me play this first from somebody who I know is not a favorite of President Trump. This is Andrew Weissman, who's a former top Mueller prosecutor. Of course, it's not a huge surprise that he didn't like this operation. He doesn't think it's legal under the act that you just mentioned, Stephen. Watch.
We're not at war with Venezuela. We're not at war with the gang that is the subject of the executive order. There is no invasion that is going on. And you also have to show that the people you're removing are actually part of that gang, even if there were an invasion or a war. And this statute may, in fact, be very unconstitutional.
So the judge has to be convinced that these individuals aren't real. I mean, it's a huge group, and nobody's going to miss any of these people, but they're quantifiable. So can you prove that these individuals were linked with Tren de Aragua and that Tren de Aragua is part of a Maduro operation, Stephen?
So first of all, Andrew Weissman is an absolute moron. He is a moron, and he is a fool, and he's a degenerate. Andrew Weissman has devoted his career to putting innocent Americans in jail, taking away their civil liberties. He was involved in the Mueller coup against a democratically elected President, Donald J. Trump. Weissman should never be on TV anywhere. He should hang his head in eternal shame for what he's done to this country. And now he's up there shilling for people who rape and murder Americans. That's who Andrew Weissman is. I met the mother of Jocelyn Nungary, Alexis Nungary, who President Trump honored at the State of the Union, named a national wildlife refuge after her daughter. Trained Nicaragua terrorists took that 12-year-old angel and they tortured her to death. They sexually assaulted her. They stripped her and they dumped her body in a river. That's who President Trump has deported from this country. Behind every single one of those terrorists was another future rape victim, another future sex trafficking victim, another future murder victim. And most importantly, every one of those people was here illegally. They have no right to be in this country for 1 second longer. They are illegal aliens. They are foreign terrorists. They are alien enemies. And the law at the heart of this issue was signed in the founding generation of this country, the same generation that wrote our Constitution. People say, oh, it's an 18th century law. You know what else is an 18th century law? The Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights of the United States. The founding generation gave us this law, gave President Trump this law to repel this invasion from our country.
I mean, there's
and it
no
was
higher...
all detailed in the proclamation, how this gang was sent here by a foreign government, and President Trump is sending them out of this country.
Well, we look forward to learning.
Stephen Miller scares the crap out of me. He absolutely scares the crap out of me. Someday I'd like to hear what Stephen Miller sounds like when he orders dinner. Does he yell at the waiters? Because he always seems to be, he's a very passionate man, is how some might put it. He certainly never holds anything back. Certainly never holds anything back. That's why we like Stephen Miller. That's why I've been playing Stephen Miller stuff on this show for quite some time. Devin Tony, what's going on, bro? I haven't seen you in a while. What's going on, man? How are you? Devin Tony in the chat. Shout out to you. But Democrats continue to press on with their 80-20 nonsense. I can't show it to you guys because it's like 45 minutes long. But there's a debate between two people on this issue on the show Breaking Points, which I use a lot of their clips all the time. Sagar and Jetty and Crystal Ball, where Crystal, the liberal on the show, basically doesn't really care that this problem could have been averted if the people just hadn't broken the law in the first place. Seems to have no care about that whatsoever. Yelling about how these people are going to a prison where they're being tortured in El Salvador, even though there's literally no evidence of that. Literally no evidence of that. But they don't really seem to care about that. They don't really care about the invasion. They don't really care about the fact that millions and millions and millions upon millions of people broke the law to get into the country in the first place. All of that is completely irrelevant. They seem to be very upset about the process in which Donald Trump is taking in order to remove these people from office. Now, what I would tell them, if I was giving them advice, which I'm certainly not giving Democrats any advice because I'd like to see them continue to lose, is that if you guys keep this up, if you keep up these shenanigans, if organizations like the ACLU continue to stand on the side of illegal immigrant criminals over the American people, you will all continue to lose. You will lose every which way, upways, downways, sideways, and backways, because the American people do not want this. They don't want this. And every time some of these middle-of-the-road channels, these people who pretend to be the arbiters of truth, like CNN, every time, oh, we're not taking a position. Every time they try to have a Republican on to discuss the merits of this argument, they get absolutely, as my generation would say, mollywopped. Here is Tim Burchett going off the top ropes on John Brennan on CNN over this very issue.
Well, but so no matter what a judge
he's taking the side of a bunch of criminals.
He hasn't taken any side yet. Congressman, he hasn't taken any side yet. All he's done is put a stay on the White House action here so that he can review their use of their novel use, frankly, of the Alien Enemies
Act.
On,
these guys, listen. These guys, the difference between God and these judges is God knows he's not one of these judges. They're arrogant, They practice this type of thing all the time. And if you had a conservative one doing it, you all would be raising total hell. But because it's a left-winger and it's CNN, you all take that side.
This isn't a question about the media. This isn't a question about the media. No one's taking a side here. Congressman,
yes,
no one's taking a side here.
He is not.
I'm asking you about the Constitution. Is asking about the Constitution. Is asking about the Constitution taking a side. All I'm asking you is about the Constitution, what you think of it, and what you would advise this White House and your feeling about judicial rulings. And that seems to be upsetting you. I'm just trying to get your position on this and what you would advise the White House going forward.
It's not upsetting. I guess what upsets me is that you all at CNN continuously take the side of the far left, and that's why your ratings continue to plummet. And I do not ever understand why y'all do that. Every time. I know you got to take the opposite side on everything, but you all are wrong on this one. Listen, this is a gang that took over an apartment complex in Colorado. They murdered people. They are criminals.
We're trying to understand.
They are
now, you
criminals.
can argue.
They are not
you
American
can argue.
Quit taking
you
their
can,
Congressman.
Congressman,
what
can
is
you?
wrong with you all?
Congressman,
you are so out of touch with what's 85% of this country does not support what you are spewing out right now.
We haven't spewed. The only one spewing is the guy who's talking uninterrupted right now.
How long does it take him to review this stuff? How long does it take him to review this stuff? These judges, he'll sit on his ass for months so these criminals can stay in this country. This is all this is. This is overreach. And I'll guarantee you, if his kids had been murdered or raped, as has happened in this country to several American citizens by these thugs, that he would be taking a different position. But he's protected. You all protect him. You all have got to come off this. Seriously, I don't know how you all sleep at night when you protect criminals, murderers,
Congressman,
and rapists.
can I ask you to stop for 1 second here? I think if you go through and analyze the questions...
I mean, look, you know what the best part about Tim Burchett is? And I mean this with absolutely no disrespect whatsoever. Do you know why they continue to have a guy like Tim Burchett on their show? I'm going to tell you. Because these are northeastern, coastal, liberal elites. And quite frankly, they hear a guy who talks the way Tim Burchett does. He's got his little twang, and he's kind of soft-spoken. And they think that he's an idiot. They think he's dumb. Some kind of country bumpkin. So they think they're going to have him on, and he's just going to roll over on their bullshit. And he's just going to let it slide. The old bless your heart sort of mentality. But Tim Burchett ain't having it. And he shouldn't have it. Democrats will continue to take the 20% on every issue. And they're going to keep losing because of it. Here was a rational Democrat saying that if Democrats don't ship up, if they don't start figuring this stuff out, if they don't stop taking the wrong side. I mean, imagine this. Imagine being a Democrat right now and hating Donald Trump so much, working him up into such a frenzy in your head that deporting criminal gang members is something you still can't get on board with. Seth Moulton makes the point absolutely eloquently that if Democrats don't figure this out, if they don't remove head from ass, they are going to be in some serious trouble come 2026.
How do you reform yourself, though, to be more in touch with the everyday American person, like you say?
Well, I'll tell you what, we've become a party of people who preach down to others, who scold them, who say, if you don't agree with me, you're not only wrong, but you're a bad person. I mean, I think all of us have heard that attitude from many national Democrats in the past couple years. So I think we need to stop preaching and start listening, start meeting Americans where they are. Don't take these minority positions on cultural issues and say, hey, if you don't meet this strict liberal litmus test, then you're not even a Democrat. When I questioned whether we should at least just have a debate about rules for sports, whether transgender women should compete on the same level as on girls' sports teams, I got told by people, you're not even a Democrat. Well, that's the problem with our party. You can't be a majority party if you don't accept a majority of views. It happens on this particular issue. 80% of Americans disagree with this liberal litmus test, a checkbox for Democrats on this view. So we've got to be a lot smarter in listening to Americans, My job is to represent Americans, not tell them what to think, but actually represent their interests in Congress. And I think if more Democrats took that approach, took that view, we'd be much more successful as a party.
It's interesting too, because as you well know, Governor Newsom came around to your view on that particular issue.
And I'll tell you what, I've heard from so many colleagues behind the scenes. You're right, Seth. You're right. Thank you I wrote a big op-ed in the Washington Post about this. I totally agree with you. But they all say it whispering because they're so afraid to say it out in public, lest they be accosted by, the liberal left in our party.
And that part that he says right there at the very end, that to me, to my mind, is the most important thing he said. It is not the job of an elected representative to tell the American people what to think. The job of an elected representative is to do what Americans tell them to do. And Donald Trump, with a very clear mandate in this election, I know gaggles of ugly people will try to convince you that Donald Trump doesn't have a mandate because of this or that or the other thing. He's got a mandate. He's got a gigantic, huge mandate. So what have Democrats resorted to? Well, they have two options. They can either listen to people like Seth Moulton and do what they are being asked to do, or they can go the other route. They can sit around with the gaggle of retards over on The View and just continue to peddle lies.
You mentioned, this is what a leader does. And we were just talking in our last segment about we aren't seeing a clear leader of the party, because even though I agree with you with your decision, and I see why, but you were only able to get 9 Democrats to go with you. How is that leadership? Why?
Okay. Look, the bottom line is there were a whole lot of Democrats who were torn, and they on the one hand, people were clamoring, do something now, do something now. Now, do we have to act and do we have to fight these Republicans, this right-wing group,
the MAGA.
Not all Republicans, every step of the way? But do it in the smartest way possible. If you're fighting them and then you end up in this shutdown, let me tell you something. If we ended up a shutdown 3 weeks from now, people would come to me and they'd say, they just cut off my Medicaid. They just got rid of my veterans benefits. Stop it. And I say, we can't. We're in a shutdown. And then they'd say to me, why did you let the shutdown happen?
Yeah.
So a lot of people responded to the anguish. I appreciate it. I wake up 3 in the morning sometimes, so worried about the future of the country under these oligarchs.
No, you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning because you're 80 years old and you have to pee 6 times a night.
Or klepto, whatever, oligarchs, I guess.
Yes.
And but you've got to find. We are fighting them tooth and nail in every way we can, but you've got to fight them smart. And if you led yourself into a shutdown, which they, by the way, Musk, Doge, Vote, they want a shutdown. They said they wanted a shutdown.
Well,
and they thought we'd play into their hands. This guy Vote, who's head of the Office of Management Budget, has a whole list of what he wants to cut. And the Republican dream, not the Republican dream, the MAGA right-wing Republican dream of decimating the government, you know why they do it? They want tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans. Right. They want to destroy government, give all the money to the wealthy, and get rid of any regulations that they might have. So I felt an obligation to stop.
But if you're right, if what you're saying is true, how do you explain the fact that Friday Trump publicly congratulated you for this decision? He said you did the right thing. Yes. He said your decision, quote unquote, took guts and courage. Was he trying to trick you?
Troll me.
He's trolling.
He was trolling me.
Yeah.
I know this guy.
It's so confusing, though.
Well,
it's confusing because you're a dumbass. That's why it's confusing. Chuck Schumer bent the knee, and now he can't handle his own party. Why? Because they have spent the last, 5-10 years saying that the man is Hitler, that the man is a fascist, that the man is this, the man is that. And Chuck Schumer just bent the knee for him. So, when that didn't work, because now Chuck Schumer is getting pushback on his own side, he leaves it up to Whoopi Goldberg, the astute political mind of our time, the star of such brilliant works like The Sister Act 2 and Rat Race. She's going to lead you all to the promised land in letting you know that it turns out it's not just illegal immigrants Donald Trump is going to deport. He might deport, you ready for this? American citizens.
Keep your eyes open, y'all, because if they can just come up and take somebody because they've made a decision that you are supposed to be that person, any one of us could find ourselves being deported to some country.
Don't give them any
ideas,
ideas, girl.
Well, listen, it is very clear to me that if we don't continue to say listen, I understand you want to clean out all the bad stuff. I get it. But why do you now have access to my personal information? I get what the things you're trying to do. I don't understand why you're taking my stuff, not my personally, but each and every one of you.
And your constitutional
rights of free speech. Which, everybody says, you never let us say anything. We're, conservatives. And in fact, you're doing the same thing you are accusing everyone else of doing. And you're doing it in a way we've never seen before because very few people have kept you from speaking out. But this is where we are now. Well, we're right here now. And you see, I beat the music. I beat the music.
You see, no one is stopping you from talking, Predator. You do it every morning. But it turns out Whoopi Goldberg thinks that American citizens are going to be deported. To which my question would be, Whoopi, and I genuinely mean this, and I'm not saying it because I think you're an idiot. I think you're an idiot, but I'm not saying this because it's like some kind of gotcha question. It's a genuine thought. If we deported American citizens, where would we send them? Where would we send them, Whoopi Goldberg? Because if you were to, go back a couple hundred years and send me back to where my ancestors came from, Ireland at some point, I think. I'm not really sure, to be totally honest with you. But if you were to send me back, I might get stuck I might get stuck living under the tyrannical regime of a future Prime Minister Conor McGregor. We'll get to that in 1 second. Before we do that, guys, head on over to loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com. Sign up for our newsletter. Check out the shop. That is the best way to support this network and the show and everything we've got going on over here. Also, once again, guys, I'm going to keep up the sale going for you guys. I'm going to keep it going. Anybody who orders anything today will get a free Loud Majority USA decal. You can put it on your car. You can put it on your laptop. Put it on your kid's laptop. Send them to school with it. Giddy up. Let's go. We've got to make our voices known. We've got to get loud. We've got to get proud about it. Also, later in the week, I'm very excited. I have a huge, some might say huge, announcement coming. So stay tuned for that. Just dotting the I's and crossing the T's on that big announcement. Really excited about it. Can't wait to share it with all of you. So head on over to loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com. So yesterday, the great one, the notorious Conor McGregor was hanging around the White House. What could possibly happen there? Here was Conor McGregor. And, this really ties in to the immigration debate we are having here in America. Because as I've said, this is not a uniquely American problem. With illegal immigrants destroying culture, with illegal immigrants raiding countries. It's happening all over the world, and I think that's why you guys know if you watch this show regularly enough, you guys know all the time I talk about the populist uprising that's happening all over the world. Whether it's Brexit, whether it's Narendra Modi, whether it is Nimbale in El Salvador. The populism is starting to take over the world because people like their cultures. They like feeling like they're being represented. And many places around the world, many of these globalists do not care for the concept of nation states. Look, I don't want to live in Ireland. I don't. But it turns out the people who live in Ireland like living there, like Conor McGregor. And he's very unhappy with what he's seeing. And there has been rumor, there has been talk, there has been conjecture about Conor McGregor running for the Prime Minister of Ireland, which, look, I don't get a vote. I would hate to meddle in a foreign election, but I would love to see it. I think it would be great. Here's Conor McGregor at the White House yesterday.
I'm here to raise the issues the people of Ireland face, and it'll be music to the people of Ireland's ears, because never on the main stage has the issues the people of Ireland face been spoke. Our government has long since abandoned the voices of the people of Ireland, and it's high time that America is made aware of what is going on in Ireland. What is going on in Ireland is a travesty. Our government is the government of zero action with zero accountability. Our money is being spent on overseas issues that has nothing to do with the Irish people. The illegal immigration racket is running ravage on the country. There are rural towns in Ireland that have been overrun in one swoop, that have become a minority in one swoop. So issues need to be addressed, and the 40 million Irish Americans, as I said, need to hear this, because if not, there will be no place to come home and visit.
I don't know. Kind of sounds like someone else. Kind of sounds like we may have to take that hat over there and what would be MIGA? M-I-G-A. I didn't say it. I want to be clear. I didn't say it. Would we make Ireland great again? Moreover, I want to make it very clear. I don't know if you guys are too familiar with Irish history. I don't know how familiar you are with what happens when people ignore the will of the Irish people, okay? I don't know if you guys are too familiar with that or not. But notoriously, throughout history, when the Irish people's will are ignored, things tend to go boom. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying maybe the Irish government ought to remove head from ass and start figuring out that it's time for them to do what their people are demanding that they do. Just like I said, Seth Moulton is starting to understand that it is his job to do what his constituents want, not for him to tell his constituents what they ought to want. People are starting to wake up to the game. They're waking up to the fraud. They're waking up to the fraud that is the idea of the Western coalition governments. And I want to be clear. If nations like ours fall, if our cultures end up dying, there will be no one there to save the other ones. And that's what Conor McGregor is talking about. Like I said, what could possibly go wrong from suppressing the will of the Irish people? What could possibly go wrong? Guys, we'll be back in 1 second. Before we do, a quick word from Old Glory Bank.
When big banks decide who gets access to America's financial systems and who doesn't, who do you think gets left out? Middle Americans who proudly wave their pro-America values. Cancel culture in banking is corrosive. It limits your participation in a vibrant, free market economy. Fortunately, you can fight back. You now have the opportunity to invest in the bank that's investing in a fair American banking system, one based in freedom. Ownership in Old Glory Bank, the pro-America online bank, is here. Old Glory Bank is a full-service FDIC-insured bank that's the alternative to overreaching, un-American big banks. We stand for privacy, security, and liberty. We stand for freedom, family, faith, and the flag. We stand for all the values you stand for, and for the values big banks can't stand. So help keep banking in the hands of Main Street, not Wall Street. To invest in Old Glory Bank, go to oldglorybank.com.
Guys, check out the parallel economy makers over at oldglorybank.com. Guys, go to oldglorybank.com. Proud sponsors of the show, as always. I want to thank the chat real quick. I'm going to put the live chat up. I want to thank the chat real quick for clarifying what I definitely said and making sure that all the idiots who watch this show, in order to hate watch it, are fully aware of the fact that I did not say what they're going to try to claim that I said. Okay? MIGA is not the other thing that sounded like what it could have been what I said. I want to make that very clear, and I want to thank the chat for reassuring me that you're all listening, and that I definitely didn't say that other thing. You know people are going to try to say I said it. You know they're gonna. So I'd like to thank everyone for clarifying that just for everyone. Make Ireland great again. M-I-G-A. That would be M-I-G-A. Very good stuff. But of course, when it comes to the deportation order, when it comes to making people look stupid, when it comes to, wow, this guy is definitely going to be the senator from Kentucky, one must look to, of course, the king of CNN, Scott Jennings.
That's number one. Number two, on the issue of these deportations, it's quite clear the president believes he is keeping the United States and its citizens safe from non-citizens who are in the country illegally, first of all, and second of all, who have a long history of committing very, very violent acts, from murder to rape to sex trafficking and so on.
Don't you think they have to prove that, though? Because, I mean, I think I don't think anybody disagrees about their ability to deport people who are murderers or rapists or whatever, but don't they have to actually prove that those people are who they say they are and that they've carried out those acts of those criminal acts?
Well, we know they're violent people because...
How do we know?
Because their records have already been pulled. I mean, these people were violent.
I think that the court,
from where they came from, and now they're here illegally. So
one of the things that happened in court today,
they are. Like,
well, that's what I'm saying.
Have
One
they
of the
even
things
given
that
us their
happened
identity?
in the court today is that the lawyers for the government couldn't say really who these people were.
And interesting enough, what they tried to use is they said, "Oh, we're looking at some of their tattoos, which means they have a gang affiliation, so they can be deported." It's a slippery slope that we don't want to open up.
But they're illegal
that's
immigrants,
why we have a process for everything.
But they're illegal immigrants, yes?
So
well, actually, again,
we don't know.
The
state of affairs. They're saying they're bad people, so they can get out of here.
It would be fine if we knew that, but we don't.
The quote is it's all fun until the rabbit has the gun, right? What if somebody turns that on one of us or anybody
we're citizens.
else?
They're not citizens.
But there's people who are here.
The state of affairs in America is one that citizens are being stopped and questioned. I met with a U.S. citizen who was stopped at a subway station, questioned by ICE, detained for 3 hours. This is the state of affairs in America. So it's not necessarily about who's on that plane who may have a criminal record. We don't know their names, their first names and last name. But it is really about those that are not on the plane that could find themselves one day on a plane.
You all are conflating different groups of people. U.S. citizens are different than non-citizens, and people here under certain status are much different than people who came here illegally, particularly if you came here illegally and you were violent where you came from. And I think the Trump administration, frankly, has a political and maybe even a legal mandate to exit from the country violent, illegal aliens who are in this country.
So, a few things. First of all, Trump is the distractor in chief. So it benefits him that we're having this argument and that we are talking about and we're watching the video of these supposed violent criminals going into El Salvador, because that means we're not talking about the stock market tanking.
The stock market is not tanking, tiny woman. Market's correct. They go up and they go down. Also, and I'll be willing to say this, the president has virtually no impact on the stock market. That's one of those things that you're not allowed to say out loud. All the stock market really is, if you guys really want to drill down to the nuts and bolts of it, all the stock market really is just a gauge of how rich people feel on a given day. That's really all the stock market is. If rich people are happy, the stock market goes up. If rich people are sad, the stock market goes down. That's just kind of the way the stock market operates. You're not really allowed to say that out loud, but it's something that I think most people kind of know inherently. You know, if the CEO of Goldman Sachs got laid the night before, the stock market's probably going to go up, and if he didn't, it's probably going to go down. That is just sort of the nature in the world in which we live. You're not allowed to say that. You have to, either give credit or not credit, up, down, sideways, to whoever's in power when the stock market moves. But really, I've never really understood that. Anybody who understands basic finance knows that. But, you're not supposed to notice that. You're just supposed to pretend that Ana Navarro is somehow like all of a sudden out of nowhere a genius, which of course she isn't. She's quite dumb. She's actually impressively stupid. But not really the point. Guys, we're going to end the show today with something a little bit fun. Charlie Kirk did his soiree, one will say, on college campuses, and he ran into an interesting character who had a very interesting story that Charlie Kirk then dissected and picked apart rather quickly. Before we get to that, guys, head on over to lfatv.us. That's lfatv.us. That's your home base, your mothership, everything you need for LFA TV. Check out Jeremy's store. That is the best way to support this network so that we can keep the lights on for you guys. Guys, go to lfatv.us. It's lfatv.us. So let's watch Charlie Kirk eviscerate this guy real quick with a story that very obviously, very clearly, absolutely didn't happen. Check this out.
I was hate crime 5 times in one night, okay? 3 of them by Trump supporters.
What happened to you?
I was just walking, and then I see this truck full of 4 white men pass by me, MAGA apparel, everything, you know. They drove past me, and they were like, F you, bend over.
Okay, so they said the N-word on campus to you.
Well, yes.
Okay, so what happened to them when you reported them?
I didn't report them.
Threatening to rape you is an intent of a crime. Did you go to the police? You file a police report? You hire an attorney? You sue the school? Did you go to the civil rights office? Do you file a civil rights complaint? Did you do any of that? Because you should.
Okay.
No, did you? Tell me. Yes or no?
I did not. But
Why?
I'm not going to argue with you.
No, but you're coming in front of 2,000 people to say it. Why did you
Right.
not go to the university and say this happened?
Next instance, they threatened to rape me and then just drove off.
Hold on. So a bunch of Trump guys who are largely white heterosexual males then also threatened to rape you?
Different group of people, but yes.
I'm going to show you the university official, and why don't you go file a Department of Education complaint, and let's find these terrible people that did this to you. Can we agree?
Okay.
Okay.
I'll think about
and by
that.
the way, we'll be able to look at security camera footage, and we'll see.
Okay, I'll think about
But you
that.
didn't do that.
Can I try
though.
to finish?
You'll think
I'm
about
not-
it. Hold on. Why wouldn't you want to do that immediately? No, honestly, I think you're Jussie Smollett at this campus. I think you're completely making this whole thing up. I think you are a complete liar. Because I am now giving you an opportunity to report this at the high. I will bring this to Linda McMahon, the head of the Department of Education, the federal government. I will make sure these people are arrested by Kash Patel, the head of the FBI. And you'll say, oh, I'll think about it. Because you're making this up. You're doing this for a political purpose. So will you, no, seriously, Kash Patel will get involved. Yes? It's a hate crime. That's not acceptable. Will you do this or not?
That's really cute, Charlie, but I'm trying to give you the opportunity to alleviate hate within this group of people who have a shared ideology.
But hold on a second. There's no hate. There's just love of America here in this audience. That's all that's here today, okay? That's all.
See, this is why I think it is so critically important not to ignore the other side. Why I think it's important to actually dive in head first and engage with them more often. Because this guy just basically tried to say that white Trump supporters raped him or attempted to rape him on college campuses, and Charlie basically eviscerated that almost instantly. It's almost not even challenging at a certain point. More of that. Guys, Will Johnson is coming up next. Did we hit the 300 mark today? I think we'll hit it on the way out the door, guys. Hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out. Oh, yeah, everyone on Long Island knows what happened in Cold Spring Harbor. Somebody found a Confederate flag at a St. Patrick's Day parade, and naturally we all have to pretend like the sky is falling. But we'll get to that another day, another time. Guys, hit the thumbs up button. Let's go. I'll catch you guys all tomorrow. Until then, stay loud.